Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steed, new from the Ville, and we're here to talk about The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 3, The Path. But first, let me tell you a little story. My kids go to school 45 minutes outside of town where we actually live. It's a wonderful, small community. I never thought that I would live or even be in a small community. And as much time as I spend in this community, I pretty much live there. The only thing I don't actually do is sleep there. I'm actually now in the process of looking for someplace to live. But why? I'm a big city kind of person. And I know that Louisville, Kentucky might not be considered a big city to some. It's actually considered a small city to me. I'm a LA, Los Angeles cat. But I have lived all over the world in smaller communities when my dad was in the military, and this reminds me, this little town, reminds me of this small town that I lived in Germany called Groß-Gerau. It was a small town outside of Frankfurt, Germany. My dad was stationed at Rhein-Main Air Force Base at the time. And the thing about imminence, when I came to visit this town, I had a sort of relationship with the superintendent of schools, and I came to visit the school based on some things that he and his oldest daughter had said at a conference that we attended, a Google conference. I was highly intrigued, and I didn't know that he was in Kentucky. I thought that everything that he was saying, I was like, oh, this dude and his daughter are obviously from California somewhere, because they're the only people that are that's progressive talking like this. Just to realize that he's 45 minutes away from me, and really in my city, to drive my kids or to get my kids to a school, just the way that schooling is set up in our city, is not the way when I was going to school. When I was going to school, you went to school based on where you lived. And they still have a little bit of that in Louisville, but they have a magnet system. So if your kid got into a really good school, then you had to get them there, which that could be 30 minutes easy driving across town, 45 minutes driving across town. So if I'm willing to do that for my kids, I can drive them 45 minutes out of town for them. Anyway, it's a small school, all in one building. That's a large building, and each group of students has pretty much their own wing of the building. Elementary over here, middle school over here, high school over here, wing of the building. About 1,200 plus kids in the entire building, kindergarten through 12th grade. So you figure about an average of 100 kids per grade, roughly. But they're doing some wonderful things with technology, and I was afraid that going to a small school, my kids were going to be the only black kids down here, and I didn't want that type of shell shock. I didn't want them to grow up in a community that was going to be extremely racist, classist, any of the ISTs. You know, anything that was in the ism family, I wanted to avoid it as much as I could. What I saw when I got here was very reminiscent of the school district that my kids are already in, or what you would see at one of the better schools in town. Still a high population of Caucasians, but generously sprinkled in there are people of other ethnic backgrounds. I was like, if it's reminiscent of what they would get in town, and this is a better opportunity, I want my kids to be here. When my kids went to visit, they loved it. They loved the school. So I was like, all right, let's give it a go. The one thing that I've learned about this little school district is that when you have hate in your heart, you live long enough and you'll see a member of your family come back to show you that very thing in your face. If there were, and I'm sure that there still are, but if there were racist people on the surface, you never know what people truly hide in their heart. You never know what they do behind closed doors. But on the surface, if there were racist people still in this small community, they've lived long enough to see that those children that they pissed off came 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away to Louisville and found them someone of that community to create a child with and came back home. And now you had to decide whether your ism was strong enough for you to no longer have a relationship with your grandchild. Life's funny like that, ain't it? Let's talk about it. Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steed, new from the Ville, and we're here to talk about The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 3, The Path. And I'm going to call this particular media therapy deep dive Cold Dish. Now, you've been rocking with me for a little bit. You know that I don't like to do a long recap. I want to try to keep this short. And then we get to my quotes, my personal thoughts, and then we're done. At the beginning of this, we see Tommy sitting next to what appears to be Joel's body. He's having a hard time knowing that his big brother's gone. But he says, "Give Sarah my love," which is heart-wrenching because you know that now Joel's reunited with his daughter and their family has taken some massive blows. We see Ellie wake up in the hospital in Jackson, and she wakes up and has an immediate episode. She blows up. Her PTSD goes off the charts because she's reliving Joel's final moments. We then do a time jump of 3 months, and we see her visit with Gail, the town's therapist. Ellie is herself. She's a smart ass. She's smug. She infers that Gail must be overwhelmed because we are 3 months past the attack. So not only what happened to Joel and Ellie, but what happened to Jackson itself, where the zombie horde overwhelmed the town and killed a good number of people. So the town has been reeling itself, trying to rebuild, burying all of its dead, refortifying the fences, the defenses, the perimeter, trying to restock, resupply, all the buildings that were devastated, torn down. Like, the whole town has been doing what it could to put itself back together in the last 3 months. Gail, being one of the most wonderful characters, like Catherine O'Hara she is doing her thing. And even Gail's character is not in the video game, but she 100% is resonating. She has a no bullshit kind of thing going on. So she said, yeah, she's overwhelmed. There's a lot of people, and I think Ellie asked her how does she deal with it. And the funniest, to me, is funny thing about someone who's sitting down with you as a therapist, she says that she deals with her need for therapy with liquor and as much weed as she can get. Priceless. Ellie is hurt, devastated, and she starts to recount the past 5 years that she had kind of iced Joel out. And now she's reliving that her final moments with Joel were not at all what she would want them to be. And Gail has a reminder, your final moments with someone doesn't define your time with them. Ellie's discharged. She goes back home to the house that she once shared with Joel. She starts to, recount her life and even how she looked at this man as a father and start to properly grieve. You can see it in Ellie's face. You know that she wants revenge. She wants Abby's ass. Pause. Dina shows up. Dina, is checking in on Ellie. But then Dina also says, look, don't be mad at me, but I have the information that you want. And Ellie does get mad for a second. She's like, I asked you. And she's like, and I knew better than to tell you, because you would have jumped up straight out of the hospital bed and pulled the wires out and been off trying to do something stupid. So Dina tells her all about the Washington Liberation Front, the Wolves. Tells her they're based out of Seattle. And she even knows some of their names. And she said, and the girl who killed Joel, her name is Abby. Now, Ellie. Ellie's like, yeah, I'm gonna get my lick back. It's time. But Dina says, listen, you can't do it like this. We have to go to Tommy. Ellie even ends up talking to Jesse. And Jesse tells Ellie, listen, if you want to do this right, you want to get some help on your revenge plan, you need to go take it before the council. And then not only that, you need to sit down, write down everything you're going to say. And she's like, I know what I'm going to say. He said, yeah, but you're angry. People are not going to vote for angry. Sit down, compose your thoughts, gather yourself, and then say what needs to be said. She does that. But right before she does that, when she's at the council meeting, some people kind of erupt. They talk about what's coming, what Ellie's going to be talking about before Ellie even gets to it. And the crazy thing is, Seth, who was the guy who offended Ellie and Dina in episode 1 at the New Year's Eve party, and Joel had to punch him in the face for basically calling out the Ellie and Dina kissing, called them freaks. He has apologized. He apologized in episode 2. And that's the thing about people. It's hard to believe a person's mouth, what they say. You have to believe their actions. So he's made up for it, and you still, at the time, you don't have to forgive them. But you do believe what they do, not what they say. Seth, before Ellie even had a chance to talk, he disagreed with someone else who said, listen, we all lost people. Why are we going to send 16 of our best fighters to Seattle to kill these people who killed Joel? We all love Joel, but it's just too much. And Seth was like, that makes us weak. The thing is, if these people could come in here and kill one of our leaders, what's to say that everybody they with don't come down here because we're weak? We ain't do nothing. He said it's not about revenge. It's about justice. These people have to be brought to justice. Now, I don't know what justice looks like in this particular world, The Last of Us, but it sounds a whole lot like revenge. But Seth has a point. We now live in an almost lawless world, and it's wonderful that we have a council, but we have to protect ourselves. And sometimes it's not by being on defense, sometimes it's by being on offense. Point taken. And for anybody who's watched The Walking Dead, you kind of understand where he's at. Where is the line? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, another thing that is not talked about is we see a group of survivors. They're walking and they have these little strange symbols on their back, and they said that they're walking the path of peace. They don't get involved. They carry these hammers, and the hammers, I guess, are for building. They try to build instead of destroy. They have lookouts. They're walking through a path trying to find a civilization that'll take them in, or a new place to build. And they get the alert that someone's on their tail, and they go and hide. We'll come back to that. There's a little girl in that group that says, who is on us? The demons, which she's probably talking about the infected. And the father figure, the man, actually looks at her, gives her this face like, no, worse than the demons. He says, wolves. We'll get back to that. Ellie stands up, makes her speech. She pre-wrote it. It's good. It's powerful. It's emotional. They take it to a vote. The votes are done, I guess, someone else reads the votes. Ellie ends up losing like 9-3. It looked good at first, and then maybe it was 8-3. Something like that. But she lost. The thing is, Tommy knows Ellie. Okay, she lost. She tried to do it your way. Her turn. There's a, pee-wee, little league baseball game. And Gail's sitting out in the infield, or the outfield, drinking, smoking, watching the game. Tommy pulls up on her, and he's like, I didn't know you was a fan. And she's like, And I guess it's one of those things about it reminds you of when things were normal. He's concerned that Ellie's going to go do something stupid. She's going to try to get her revenge regardless of what the council just said. And Gail said, the one thing that she's realized is just that some people can't be saved. It doesn't matter what you want to do for Ellie. It doesn't matter you want to save her from herself. Some people can't be saved. So as Ellie and Dina prepare to leave, they are given some help by Seth. Seth trades rifles with Ellie, says that his is far better and she's going to need it. He brings her some more supplies and things like that, and he helps her get out of the gate, out of town, so they're kind of undetected. As Dina and Ellie are on the path, they're on their way to Seattle, they come across this picture of death where everyone has been killed, and we find it is that same group that we saw earlier. These are a fanatical group called the Seraphites. Everyone, including that little girl, everyone has been murdered. It appears our small group of wolves from the Washington Liberation Front are not so harmless after all. At the end of the show, we get to Seattle. We see what Seattle looks like in the future. We see one of the guys that was there when Joe was killed. He's on guard. And then we see that they're not as small as we thought. They have an army and tanks, and it's going to be a serious situation for two young ladies on horseback to deal with. You know that I love my quotes, and I actually have 3. I know I don't normally do that many, but this is a good topic. First one, the one that all of us probably can ascribe to. It's from Frank Sinatra, and he says, "The best revenge is massive success." The second one is from Marcus Aurelius, and he says, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who caused the injury." And the last one is from Confucius, and he says, "Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves." This particular deep dive has taken me some time to wrap my head around what I want to say. I knew what I wanted to say in a moment, but I didn't know how I wanted to say it. All of us deal with those slings and arrows and those things in life that makes us want revenge. And it could be a coworker, it could be a loved one, it could be family, it could be friends. Betrayal only hurts the way it does because it comes from someone close to you. You're not hurt by somebody you don't like or somebody you don't fool with does something wrong to you. That's par for the course. You expect that. They don't like me. Okay, I expect them to do something ill and wicked towards me. Cool. What shall be my response? But betrayal is something different. It hurts differently. It cuts differently. So even if you led the life that nobody's really done anything to you, I'm sure that you've dealt with betrayal. But again, revenge can come against anyone. What is your reason? What is your purpose for this revenge? Are you going full tilt? Are you going scorched earth? Are you going, I'm just going to be petty? Or are you going to ignore it and be like Frank Sinatra? The best form of revenge is massive success. When you look online, Instagram, the land of fake and fantasy, it always seems that the best form of revenge, especially against a loved one, someone who has done you wrong, is get your revenge body. Get your body together. Get your mind together. Show pictures of you living your best life on wonderful vacations and stuff. Does that do it though? I guess it all depends on how someone has aggrieved you, how someone has hurt you. Some years ago, some Swiss scientists did an experiment. And they had some people play this economic exchange game, and how the game was, they put the little sensors and stuff on people and recorded people's interactions playing this game. The people had trusted their partners to split the pot of money with them, only to find out that their partner had done them wrong and chose to keep the money for themselves. The mind immediately went to thoughts of revenge. I'm pissed. I could have had half the money, part of the money, and you kept it all? Oh, hell no. They recorded it, and it caused some activity in the brain that is the same area of the brain that processes rewards for you. And it gave confirmation of the old saying that revenge is sweet. There's a quote, and I didn't use that as one of my quotes, but is that revenge is a dish best served cold. What that actually means is it's best to wait and plan your revenge. instead of act impulsively in a moment. Now, what are the reasons for that? That could be because after people do something to you, they're naturally going to be on guard. I've hurt them. They're probably going to retaliate. I probably should be on guard. Well, your revenge won't be satisfying if it fails, right? So you give them time to lower their defenses, be lulled into that false sense of security. Maybe think that they've gotten away with it. Maybe think that they got the best over you. It's when all of these things come to fruition. Now you strike. Some people are not okay with the long, drawn-out revenge plan. And some people will take years. Years. Now, I do think that this is absolutely, and you know how much I talk about mental health, this is absolutely devastating to your mental health. Because while the resolution of something that hurt you, you make peace with that, that could be satisfying, rewarding. But it also means that you have been consumed with doing harm to someone else for how many years? That's not good for your spirit. Satisfying. Rewarding. Gives you a small sense of glee or something. Yes. Not good for your spirit. But that's between you and your spirit. The thing about all this, though, is what did Ellie want in her speech? Her pre-written speech that comes several months after she'd healed, after the act of killing Joel himself, which Abby had waited 5+ years for revenge. She became no better than Joel, who killed her father. Joel killed her father trying to save Ellie. Abby killed Joel to revenge her father, to avenge her father. Ellie wants to kill Abby to avenge her father, Joel, who she wasn't even in a good place with at the time. Not that that matters. Where's the line? Where does this end? Let's say Ellie kills Abby. That means somebody from the wolves community wants to kill Ellie. Let's say Abby kills Ellie. Now Dina or Tommy or somebody wants revenge. Where's the line? Not only that, where's the line end for revenge and justice? Because in Ellie's speech, that's what she said she wanted. Justice. Where's the justice? If we think about what we saw in the final moments of this episode, even if Ellie foregoes her plan for revenge and says, I want justice, so I'm going to grab Abby, kidnap her, take her back to Jackson to stand trial. You don't think the army with their tanks and what the wolves have are not coming to Jackson to get her and maybe overrun the whole... There's so many ramifications that can be ascribed to the choices that are being made in this episode. This episode was a slower episode. It did not have the action and things that we've seen in other episodes. Doesn't mean it was a bad episode, it's just a different episode. And I think that it's important that when in some of these you get these lulls before you get right back to it. We saw the Seattle people, the Washington people had a huge little army. And they must have a huge army because maybe there's a lot of infected up here. They need to protect themselves the best they can. If there's a large army, I'm assuming there's probably a large population of people in this town. I think the next episode, we're going to get right back to it. But what does that mean for our protagonist, our antagonist, Ellie? This is Rakai Steve, new from the Ville. Make sure that you like this. Share it as much as possible. Leave me some comments about revenge, justice, the difference. Is what Ellie's doing, is she's correct? What would you do in this situation? I have a couple of different answers on what I might do. It's hard to say, and a lot of times you cannot make the determination until you actually go through it. Right now I could tell you what I would do because I'm not in it. But once emotions flare up, they start to color the decisions that you make. They have a way of overriding common sense. And if for some reason you have not subscribed, I don't understand, but you can handle that right now. Go down, hit the button, subscribe, and you take care of it just like that. Easy peasy, lemon to the squeezy. Remember, everything I do, everything I watch, I try to use this, but it's even more important that you use this.